Hello viewers, welcome to my channel History Up. Today we will know about the history of United States. Part 19. The United States then established an air flights for bombing runs against mainland and Japan from the Marine Island and achieving hard and proud of victories at Lo Anjima and Okeana in 1945 and Baudet of Okeana but the US and prepared to invade and Japan home and island went a B-29 and dropped an atomic and bombed one of the Japan cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and compelling and Japan to surrender and ending World War. I will the US and occupied Japan and part of Germany and the restored Japan along the American lines during the war and Roosevelt and coined the terms and force powers to refers and four major allies of World War. I will the United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union of China, which later became the foundation of the United Nations and Security Council. And through the nation lost more than 4 lakhs military and personnel and civilians, and the U.S. and mostly prosperate and untrusted by the devastations of war and inflicted habitual one Europe and Asia and participations in post-war and foreign affairs and market the end and predominant of American and isolations at the threat of nuclear weapons and inspired both and optimisms and fear and nuclear weapons have not been used and since the war ended and a long space and begin between the global powers in the air competition that came to the announced as the Cold War. The trans and doctrine and characterized this reality 1 May 22, 1947, and despite the advance of a global during the period, there were, however, the regional wars in Korea and Vietnam. Following the World War, I will the United States and emigrated as one of the two and dominant and superpowers, the USSR being the other. The US Senate won a bipartisan vote approved US and participations in the United Nations UN, which marked and transformed NUIA from the traditional and isolations of the US and trade and increased international involvement. The primary American goals of 1944, 45, and 1948 was to resource and Europe's from the disputations of World War. I will and content the explanations of communications represented by the Soviet and Union, US, and foreign policy during the Cold War was built around the support of Western explorer of Japan along the with and policy and containment stopping the spread and communism. The U.S. and joined was the was and Korea and Vietnam and the tripartite and left wing and governments in the third world try to top spread. The Sherman and Doctrine of 1947 provide the military and economics aid to Greece and Turkey with contracted to the trade and communist expansions in the blanks in 1948 the United States and replaced and piecemeal and financial aid and programs with and comprehensive and Marshall's Plan, which the pumped and money into the economics of Western Europe and the removed trade and barriers, whether the modernizing the managerial and parties of business and governments. The plans, the plans, dollar 13 billions and broadcast was in the context of U.S. GDP, dollar 258 billions in 1948 was in addition to the dollar 12 million in American and given to Europe and between in the end onward the starts to the Marshall Plan and Solvay and he headed the state and job stealing and prevented the his and settled by state and practicing and from that point one Eastern Europe with insufficient and contralegist and economics fell further and further behind the Western Europe in terms of economic development of prosperity. In 1949, the United States and rejecting the long-standing and policy into the military alliance in peace times and formed the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO Airlines, which and continued into the 21st century in response of Soviets from the Warsaw Pact and communist state and leading to the Iron and Tartan. In August 1949, the Soviets tested and their first and nuclear weapon, nearby scheduling risks and war. The war and treaty mutually was war destruction, however, the prevent and both and power and nuclear war and the resulted in the proxy was specifically in Korea and Vietnam, in which is two sides and did not directly conflict each other. And President died and Eisenhower and elected in land list as the first and Republican president and since 1932 at lasting impact on American life and politics and ended of the Korean War as he avoided the many of the major of conflict and he cut on military spending by the influence of technology such as nuclear and weapons and paired a long range armed bomb and intercontinental missiles. He have strong and support to NATO alliance and built and alliance along the similar lines, but the neighbor were specifically effective. After the Stalin died in 1953, Eisenhower and worked and obtained and find their relationship with Soviet Union. At home, the ended and magazine expanded to the social security and program. And President Albert became and the Bipartisan and Committee. He promoted civil and rights and courtly as sent in the army when travel and traded over the serious and interrogation in the Little Rock at Arkansas. The unexpected and leap for gaining an American technology by the Soviet in 1957 with the State Bank and the first art and Stalin with the stove and race one in 1969 and American Apollo then the astronauts won the moon. The engaged and about the weakness of American education led to the large and scale and federal support for science, education, and research. In the decades after the World War, I will the United States became the global influence in economics and political, military, and culture, technological affairs. In 1916, and John Franklin Kennedy was elected and president, and administration saw the declarations of the nation rules in the speech of race and as elections declarations of the Americans' rule in the Vietnam War by of Briggs and invention of Cuban and Miles and Scaries and during the jailing and Martin and Jaffa Kings and drawing to the Birmingham and campaign again and Kennedy was enlisted November 22 and 1963 and leaving to the nation and fraud stock. Thank you for watching my videos. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel for upcoming videos. Goodbye.